I have had a lot of things in my life where I felt a great amount of regret. Whether it was a decision I made that later on I felt had I made a different choice, I'd be in a different financial situation or just overall a different quality of life. Or perhaps it was a decision I didn't make. And because I didn't make it, I felt a sense of regret. What if this happened? What would my life look like in 5 years had I stuck with that or gone with it? And this thing was plaguing me and torturing me for a very long time. I had one in particular moment where, I was competing in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu for a very long time. That was my pretty much main obsession. The goal was to be a world champion in Jiu-Jitsu, and it's a very difficult thing. You have to put a lot of hours in. There came a point where I felt like I was maxing out the room that I was training in, and I needed to, elevate and go somewhere where it's a lot more competitive. There was a lot of ideas of going to the States, and at the very last minute, when we found a location, found an academy there, and I just couldn't pull the trigger. I got afraid, nervous, wasn't sure anymore if that's what I wanted. And for the longest time, I had that as a regret. I wished I had gone. I wished I had actually done it. And maybe I would have been a world champion by now, or at least gone close enough to feel satisfied and be able to be at peace with it. And that was eating me for a while. And I've had many along the way. But there's one thing that dawned on me with regret, after especially working with a lot of men who are dealing with not just regret, but all different challenges in their lives. It doesn't matter what path you pick. There was always going to be some hint of regret in that path. Whether you decide to run that business that you've always thought about running, you've wanted to open a bakery, or you've wanted to be an athlete. If you do it, you might, at the end, regret that you didn't decide to choose something a lot more stable, like a 9-to-5, or something that would have been more likely for you to succeed, because athletics is very difficult. If you don't take that path, you decide to go the 9-to-5 route, something a lot more stable and predictable, you're going to have regret that you didn't pursue your goal. You didn't pursue the dream you had. And the longer I sat with this perspective, that there's always going to be some level of regret no matter what you do, I naturally followed it into the next thing, which is, well, if there's naturally going to be some level of regret, then how do I make my decisions? Where do I make my decisions from? And the place that I often make my decisions is this path forward going to bring me more towards the version of myself that is the most alive? Not meaning through adrenaline, but meaning through different personalities that I have within me, the different aspects of me that have been so suppressed because of fear of being maybe rejected or failing. There are parts of myself that I've had to squish and tuck away in order for me to avoid any kind of pain. And so the idea is, if I decide that if I move in this direction, is it going to bring more of those parts to life? Am I going to feel a lot more bold? Am I going to feel more courageous? Am I going to feel like I actually dared and went for it? And this is the ultimate thing. Whether I fail or succeed, is the version of me on the other side going to be enough? And the answer is absolutely. For me, it was absolutely. Because I was no longer pursuing a particular dream or an ambition because I needed it to fill a particular void, a vacancy. Maybe I didn't feel like I mattered. I didn't have inherent worth. Or maybe I wasn't seen for who I am, so I had to curate this persona and this personality that would get accepted, but it wasn't really who I was, which ultimately took away my power, my control in my life. I was puppeteered by invisible scripts that were running my life. And so as I decided to make decisions and choices, naturally you're going to have the feeling of, perhaps I could have done this, perhaps I could have done that. But the reality is you already made your choice. Once you've made that choice, understand that anything moving forward after that is just a mental projection of the future. Because once the past is done, it's done. Like, there's really nothing you can do about it, and everyone knows that, right? And everyone knows that the past played out the way it had to. And the reason why we know that is because that's just how it played out. And that's it. And so the only thing we're left with is just creating this fear, this illusion, this concept of what the future will hold based on the past experience, based on the past choice, decision, or lack thereof of a choice. But understand that the only thing that is really present is the actual moment. That's really all we really have. And having your decision-making be done through the lens of where am I going to feel more alive? Where am I going to feel more whole, more integrated, and not a more restricted version, a tighter and tighter version, conforming to the script that I've been living by my whole life. And try it out. I really think it's going to do a lot, especially if you sit and meditate on this idea for a little bit longer. And again, this isn't to say that you're going to have constant regrets and that you should be looking for it, but you should also not be denying it as well, right? We're all going to have them, and that's okay, right? The less we fight the feelings that come up, the better it is. The more we actually realize that when we fight the emotions, we're just fighting ourselves. We're just fighting a piece within ourselves that wants to be heard, that wants to be present and seen. It wants to know that it has inherent value. The part of you that, gets angry at certain things, gets very sad, and maybe you feel ashamed, like your ego, your conscious ego feels ashamed that you're feeling these feelings. But ultimately, we are, if doing that, removing our sense of inherent worth, because that part of you is not good enough. I'm tired of this part. I don't want to feel this part anymore. Which then you're telling yourself that I don't like seeing this version. I'd rather maintain a particular image, which then you are taking power away from yourself. And that was a big thing for me when I realized that the only person really taking away my power is me. And then those around you who often like to use power will notice that you're very confining. You restrict yourself and they play into that. And it was a massive eye-opener. It is you that is the prisoner. You're both the prisoner and the guard. You hold the key while sitting within the cage. So make a choice. Whether you think you'll regret it or not, you're not going to know until you take that path moving forward. But you take the path moving forward based on decisions that obviously logically make sense, but at the same time, you're going to feel more expanded. You're going to feel more integrated, the more complete version of yourself, at least moving towards that. And regardless of if the path works or not, there's going to be maybe distress, maybe excitement and joy, but you're going to always foundationally get back to the place where you say, well, at least I made a decision that made me feel more alive than I was before. And you can't regret that. I've yet to meet someone who actually regrets being more complete and reaching their potential of expression. All right. Well, take care. Don't forget, links down below if you want to join the community of men who are looking to break away from their old scripts and live more full, live more alive, with more peace in mind. And you want to do it alongside other men. We do group meetings. We always go over not just the modules that I have, but things that they're going through in their own lives and just being able to share it, not necessarily always having advice for it, but just knowing that there's an ear that's ready to listen. Or if you're not ready for that, join my newsletter and you're going to get weekly insights, tips, breakdowns on everything regarding breaking away from your old script, living in the present moment, and being more alive. Take care.